Just making sure the time is correct. But you're in for a treat, guys. You're in for a treat. For today's post, we're going to talk about the secrets behind why PUAs are creepy. And for the first time ever, I'm going to reveal to the world why they have this weird fucking vibe. Hey, what's up? So I'm going to reveal to the world. And you might be thinking, why am I going to learn about psychopaths, narcissism, Machiavelli manipulator? Because the more you know, a lot of PUAs have this. In fact, I would say the majority of the RSD victims have it. I'm going to go in extreme detail so I can make this short and concise. All right, let's begin. Because this will help you that if you have these characteristics, you can try to reduce it a lot. Because around women, it could be, really, really bad. So the very first group of clusters of mental illness is called the dark triad personality disorder. The second one is called dark tetrad. So what's the difference between dark triad, like a triangle, versus dark tetrad, which is more like a square? So let's go write it out so people can see what it looks like. So the very first one is going to be a big ass triangle, right? And the second one is going to be a dark four. So it actually is pretty well drawn, which is surprising. So the first cluster up here is called the psychopathy, psychopath / sociopath. That means for PUAs, they're either psychopath type or sociopaths. But I can guarantee you over 90% or 95% of them are actually closer to what they call the sociopathy. And I can talk in details why that is. And you're going to learn a lot from this lesson. The second part of the cluster is called narcissistic personality disorder. NARCISSM. So we'll call it narcissism. Oh, fuck. Be careful not to scratch my Rolex. And the third one is called Machiavelli manipulator. MACHAVEL. Machiavelli manipulator, like Charisma King, Charisma King, or manipulative RSD. They're very manipulative. So basically, you will see the dark three. So this is called the dark triad personality disorder. Dark triad personality disorder. And the dark tetrad is called, sounds kind of weird, TETRAD. So tetrad's different. It's exactly the same as the above one, but there's one extra component, which is called sadism. The rest is exactly the same. So psychopath / sociopath. And of course, narcissistic, RCISSISM. And the last one is called, just Machiavellian. You're going to learn a lot of shit, guys. This is the first time in history that a pickup artist, dating coach, is going to reveal to the world all these details. Because once you understand all this stuff, you will wonder why PUAs are so creepy. Of course, I'll get into autism and Asperger's syndrome. That will be covered in the future. But this is cluster A. Cluster A. Then we'll talk about ADD, and we'll talk about OCD, and also delusional disorders and schizophrenia. PUAs have all this shit. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. This is going to be like the real shit. The shit that nobody dares talks about, because once I talk about it, who cares? Anyways, let's continue. All right. So in psychology, the dark triad refers to the personality traits of narcissism, Machiavelli, and psychopathy. Of course, / sociopathy. They are called the dark because of the malevolent qualities. So for narcissism, it is characterized by grandiosity, pride and egotism, and a lack of empathy. Machiavellianism is characterized by manipulation and exploitative of others and absence of moral, unemotional, callous, and a higher level of self-interest. So psychopathy is sociopathy is characterized by a continuous antisocial behavior, impulsivity, selfishness, callous, and unemotional traits and remorselessness. And the reason why I'm making this particular YouTube live is that it's not just like one PUA or whatever. And of course, I did get screwed over by another student of mine, the guy who closed $2.2 million, and he screwed me over, and it's okay. I'm going to forgive. He didn't give me a single cent of the thing he earned, no commission. He gave me the smallest amount. It's fucked up. He had all these traits of dark tetrad, and I'll go in detail, but I forgive him. I forgive him because he didn't want to do it on purpose, but he was surprised that he had all these traits. He had all these traits. So does the level 4 of learning apply this type of mental? Does the 4 levels of learning apply to this type of mentality, or is it a disease? It's a disease. Basically, the disease, these people, their frequencies of their mind, all their thoughts, feelings, and actions are fucked up. Man, do you work just in the internet? I mean, who's this motherfucking piece of shit? I'm just gonna hide this user from the channel. I don't work on the internet, you fucking idiot. I also teach boot camps. This is probably a dark triad personality. So I don't have to deal with this motherfucker no more. Haters like him are what they call a dark tetrad. So fuck him. All right. So what is dark tetrad? Several researchers have suggested expanding the dark tetrad to contain a 4th dark trait, everyday sadism. So is defined by the enjoyment or cruelty is the most common addition, just like the other motherfucker there. Haters are feel, man. I used to get so many haters, and most of them are like that. But we'll get into that. Hey, John, what's up? Hey, man, what's up? So today, I'm going to talk about dark triad personality. It's going to be very, very different. And for the first time ever, a dating coach is going to reveal all the dating coaches and also all the PUAs and all the RSD victims. This is going to be really amazing. Nobody has ever attempted to crack the genome. And in order for me to really expose RSD, we have to talk about the mental illnesses and how they're deluding people. So let's see. So dark tetrad is only one thing that is swapped out. Psychopath and sociopath is different. Psychopath with dark triad can move up quickly in any industry. So basically, from what I can tell, the people who are top of every industry, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, a lot of these people, they're very dark tetrad or dark triad. Hope that makes sense. There's a lot of CEOs and people like that. Steve Jobs and Michael Jordan and all these other people, Mayweather Jr. So for them, they're usually the best in the world at what they do because they're not delusional. Psychopaths are not delusional. So people with dark tetrad personality that have sociopathy are different. So the cluster of it's either psychopath or sociopath. So if it's psychopath, they have the capacity for good. And for sociopathy, they're just pure evil. And yep, so it's either dark triad or dark tetrad. So this is the different subtypes. And in other words, those who have dark tetrad with sociopaths are almost always evil, without exception. Their soul is evil, their mind is evil, and their emotions are really narcissistic, cuntish, and very snowflakeish, very emotional in a negative way. So you can almost say that for dark tetrad or dark triad, they vibrate at a frequency. So for example, you might be thinking, this radio station is called 94.5 Sociopath FM. So no matter what the thoughts, feelings, and actions will always be sociopathic. So in my teaching experience, I get to work with a lot of people like this. But for psychopaths, I rarely find psychopaths as students, only sociopaths, which is very strange indeed. So if you understand the mating strategy, you will start to understand these types. Psychopaths are indeed an evolution conundrum because of their particular behaviors are not an obvious path towards evolutionary success. For example, the majority of the serial killers are childless. And when they are killed or apprehended, narcissistic sociopaths, however, inevitably have families and children whom they support energetically. And many of these traits specific to the phenotype can fairly be called adaptive. This raises the important issue of evolutionary niche of narcissistic sociopaths within societies in which they do exist. So, what's up? With sociopath admit they are a sociopath, or would they get triggered? Well, first of all, sociopaths have absolutely no awareness that they are a sociopath. You say it, they'll dismiss it because they're delusional. And I'll be talking about all the traits, but let's talk about the evolutionary success. I'd rather stop talking. So for the evolutionary success, you'll notice for the guys, the dating coaches, who really do not care about having like a family, and they don't really care about having a girlfriend. They're just into same day lays or closing a deal and fuck buddies. These kind of guys are probably more along the lines of the psychopath. I'm not saying that psychopaths are violent. They are not violent people. But in terms of today's psychopaths are very different than psychopaths of the past. In the caveman days, psychopaths, the entire tribe will kill all the psychopaths. Only 1% remains. That's why in today's society, 1% of the people, in governments, in Wall Street, all these people are psychopaths. Even surgeons, doctors, all this other stuff, they're psychopaths. And why is that? Why is all these people like this? Well, the thing is that in the old days, when they're cavemen, they will actually need to hunt. The tribe needs to hunt. And not everyone is good with killing animals. So they always have one psychopath in the tribe. So that's how they survive. But for the sociopaths, in the evolutionary psychology days, for the sociopaths, they knew how to adapt. So they knew how to put on a mask. That's where it comes from. So you ever wonder why sociopaths, they have like a particular mask? It's almost like when you look at their eyes, you can almost look like they look like a serial killer. So they'll have very different eyes. And that's something that you can tell for benevolent sort of sociopaths. They're all exactly the same. There is no variation. But you can see that for sociopaths, they always have families. They always want children. They always want to have a big family because they want to spread the tumor. The thing is that they don't realize that they themselves are actually like a tumor. They're very, very dangerous. They want to spread. And women are susceptible to these kind of sociopath behavior. And this is not surprising because I teach a lot of students that have sociopathic abilities or traits. So it's not just that I'm talking about one person that you have in mind. I'm talking about 100 or 1,000. How many students I've trained? I'm talking about like a majority of them. So this is almost like the DNA of the pickup artist. And this is the first time a dating coach will reveal it. Now you're going to start to understand how the other dating coaches are kind of like screwing you over. So let's begin. Okay, this is going to be very important information. So I don't care what he thinks. I don't care what he thinks. So I would say a person, I have to disagree. I have to disagree with that statement. But I'm not talking about any particular person here. I'm talking about them all. A person who's parasiting over you start to understand before you make assumptions like that. And I don't really care what he thinks because I no longer work for these type of people. In translation, The psychopaths don't want to be fathers. The psychopaths just want to get laid and more fuck buddies. Sociopaths, like, they want to procreate. But what's the difference between the two? And trust me, I know this because I work with PUAs. I have a lot of students. And even one student tried to screw me over. He worked in a contract with me, and he says, John, I'm going to give you, for his field, they say they get 6% commission. I was like very surprised that he actually owns the entire company. He was just saying he was just an employee, but he owns the entire company. He was going to pocket millions of dollars if it weren't for COVID-19. He was using my skills, taking all the credit for it. 2.2 million in 3 weeks. And he's not going to give me much. He's going to work me to the bone. So the very first thing, you'll start to see how sociopaths work. It's not about that. I'm talking about all the dating coaches. All the students that have, the majority of them have this kind of trait. Like I said, I'm very glad, you bring up these people. I'm not talking about particular people. I'm not. This is a general quote because I'm going to be covering autism and Asperger's in the future. Asperger's, because you'll start to understand why. So what's the difference between the two? Long story short, sociopaths wear masks and they're delusional as hell. They have different eyes. Sociopaths are money hungry. They're selfish. They're delusional. It's always about them. They have predictable traits that makes them identical twins. So for example, this student, all he talked about was money, power, money, power, money, power. They're very selfish. The reason why they're selfish is because they want to spread their seeds, have kids in the future, and with this selfishness, raise the family so they can pass the genetics. So what happens is, for most sociopaths, in my experience, especially with the other student, he didn't tell me he was working for the company. So imagine this is 33% right here. 33%. So in the beginning, they always have a growth spurt in the industry. They'll fuck everyone over. They'll feel very narcissistic. Once they reach the 33%, they never reach the top. You see that? They never reach 100% like I do. However, they kind of go back down a little bit. After, like, for example, if somebody screws me over like the other student recently, they'll go back down, but they'll have a little bit of a growth spurt, just a little bit, because they're riding the residual wave. And then afterwards, they fall back down. And then they realize, oh, I'm sorry, John, I fucked you over, right? And after that, around this time, this is around 7 and 10 years, they'll look for the next field, you know what I mean? And they'll go all the way up to 7 or 33%. They'll fuck everyone over. And as the other student told me, John, I can't believe it, but everyone has abandoned me. And I said, yeah, because you have these traits and people don't like it. When you start screwing people over, people, it's kind of like antibodies. They start to see this in the tribe and they're very, very unhappy. Hope that makes sense. Man, I want to live a free life of just day game without work. What you want to work on high income skills. That means you want to first do a normal job, okay, gentleman fashion, and then afterwards you want to find a side hustle, because during COVID-19 I did just fine. But the skills are very hard to learn. You want to focus on sales, copywriting, public speaking, because the student that screwed me over, he actually won 3 first place in a row for public speaking, and because he was so narcissistic over it, the 3rd time, this is a great lesson, guys, that I'm revealing or talking about. Like I said, I have nothing against that student. I already forgiven him. No matter what he did to me, it was only within like 2 months. I saw through it. So what I'm telling you here is 100% correct about sociopaths. 100%. They all do exactly the same thing. They don't have any variations. But yeah, you want to do one job first, and then you want to make more money from the second job. And then afterwards, you want to quit this first job when you make more money on the second job. Hope that makes sense, gentlemen fashion. Do they believe in the law of retaliation with emphasis on the negative sense, or not all? They believe in like retaliation, of course. But then this is how they operate. They're more like a tumor. So yeah, so that's kind of how they think. But the tumor never wants to reveal the mask. So that's another thing. I'm just gonna, you're saying the same shit. You're probably him. So hide user on this channel. Fuck you. I don't have to deal with you. Why does people think it's one person? Because another Asian student just screwed me over. Exactly the same. You can say he treated me the best, but the other Asian student only given me 3%, but he hasn't given me shit. So you cannot say that, somebody has treated you good or whatever, because they're actually just parasiting you, sucking the life out of you. And that way they can raise their power. And the problem is I provide a lot of power to shitty people. I provide a lot of power because of the testimonials, lots of testimonials and skills. And what happens is that once they let it get to their head, their eyes, right, for the narcissistic personality. So when we talk about narcissistic personality right here, what happens is that when they start getting the power, remember I talked about the ego, high self-esteem, low ego, high self-esteem. And I talked about the 3 gears. The first gear that happens within narcissism, number 1, is usually the lower self. And among the Chinese and the Indians, they always think in the lower self. They never think in a way of win-win. They always think how to screw people over. There's always the lower self. They never take the high road. The second gear, which is lower, is called lower self. It's called the okay. The third gear, the lowest gear, is called like. Okay, number 1, my mistake. Usually, what happens is they are a little bit on the depressed side. So whenever they're humble, they're very depressed, and it's fine. They look like they're harmless. Number 2, then is the lower self. And the last gear is the red eye. So how the student became red eye, and this is a great lesson to learn about sociopaths. When he learned how to do public speaking in a very, very good way, and he won 3 awards, what happens was he went to the red eye gear. He started to feel powerful. So what happened was he started going up here. And then when he reached the 33%, he kept feeling more and more proud. So this narcissism, this dark triad, he was feeding the narcissistic personality disorder. So what happened was he kept going to a lower self, from depressed to lower self to red eye, until he lost the competition in 3rd place on the 4th attempt because he no longer could listen to me. This is what happens to sociopaths. They usually go up, they get really narcissistic, and they have succeeded a little bit in the industry, but they never go further because they're delusional. They're delusional. But I'll talk about this in more detail. But this has happened to me with this other student. I was very surprised that it happened, to me. And let's see, use NLP and do social development. It's not about NLP. Yeah, what goes around comes around. I totally agree with that. Since I don't screw people over, I've never seen bad karma in my life, ever. But the other guy really does feel sorry that he turned into a Judas. He says, John, I'm so sorry. How can I fix this? Is there something wrong with me? Is there a cure? And I'm telling him there is no cure, guys. I haven't found you guys a cure, because I thought by wearing watches and he's dressing nicer, it'll raise his self-esteem and lower his ego. But in reality, it actually raised his ego at the same time. I was like, what the fuck? So this student was like a good metaphor. And you guys could learn a lot from him. You guys could learn a lot, because he was one of my more successful students. And now he has a fiance, and he's going to get, but like I said, I'm not here to dox him or hurt his reputation of the student. I have no problems with him. I wish him the best of luck. But I just couldn't believe I was screwed over for this amount of money. I've been screwed over for a certain amount, but never this much. Never this much in such a short time. So basically, after they fall back down, right, a lot of dating coaches, especially RSD, they'll have zero guilt. They cannot feel guilt as if their life depended on it. They screw over people acting as if guilt doesn't exist. They can't feel it anyways. So they skip over that part where they should be feeling guilty. They pretend, but everyone automatically knows. So basically what will happen is that if you can feel no guilt, then screwing over people, for most normal people, if you guys are getting this and getting a good education, give a thumbs up, then people will be like, oh no, I'm sorry, right? The other guy told me he's never felt guilt in his entire life, and this is the first time when he screwed me over. This other guy. And you have to say, like, he's really helping me. Oh yeah, he's really helping me. But it's very interesting because he felt no guilt until afterwards he realized it's like screwing Jesus over. And for me, I have been doing nothing but good for the world. I have saved so many lives. There's 6 students that were gonna, some almost commit suicide, some almost got like the 18-year-old guy that you saw, the high school student. The host family he was living with almost is gonna kidnap him. So they went through the same sociopathic dark tetrad. The girlfriend says you better leave, or the family, when they come back from vacation, are going to tie you up, and they're going to tell your dad that, you know, they're going to bribe him and, you know, blackmail him. And that was very shocking. I saved his life, and I've saved other students' lives too. There's many students' lives, especially, you know, another white guy. He was about to kill himself because Todd Valentine's shit did not work. He went to all the other dating coaches. So a lot of these dating coaches are very Machiavellian and delusional. But let's talk about it further. So psychopaths, on the other hand, they're typically way smarter, but they go way higher. In that 33%, they go all the way to 100. So you can see the top people of every industry typically probably has some kind of psychopathic traits. They don't have any empathy whatsoever. So instead of the lack of guilt, they lack empathy. So it doesn't even exist in the world. They don't wear a mask, but typically they don't even care about the mask, you know? And they swear a lot. They don't care. That's what I've noticed about them. That's what I noticed. But they're not delusional, and they're being a psychopath. The violence depends on how high functioning or low functioning they are. So the low functioning ones end up in jail. So typically, you see a lot of Wall Street guys in politics, top name people like, you know, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, all this shit, that are probably more on the psychopath side. They're not on the sociopath side. They don't even care, to be honest. So without a clear mental filter, these guys lack delusions. That's what makes them more dangerous. They can't, you know, get there. Sociopaths gets like 33%. They are, however, psychopaths are always in the top 1%. And that could happen unless they're not skillful. So movies made about psychopaths, they make them look like serial killers. The word psycho is probably more socio, and that's more schizophrenic, which means psychotic. Psychotic and psychopath are 2 different things. Psychotic means delusional disorders, where they can become violent at certain months of the year, where they need medication. But for sociopaths, more sociopaths are in jail or prisons than psychopaths. So the movie Psycho should be called Socio. Hope that makes sense. Low functioning socio, that's the name of the movie. So psychopaths are not usually emotionally affected at all by anything. They don't give a shit. So since almost all the PUAs are sociopaths, less of them are psychopaths. So let's use the psychopath chart. So 10 signs of a sociopath. You don't make sense. Yeah, I do. No, they don't use NLP. You're not JP. Ryan is the most comprehensive. Yeah, fuck you. He is, Ryan, are you talking about Jan Lifestyle? Is actually a psychopath. Or I mean, he's a sociopath. I'll explain that a little bit later. So Jan's a sociopath, but he has no empathy whatsoever. Narcissistic, sadistic. He's dark tetrad. And everything he says, he's just SMVing it. So I wouldn't say he's comprehensive. Jan Lifestyle does not care about his students. He doesn't give a shit. He just collects their money and just, you know, that's who he is. And this is triggering a lot of people because you guys have been through it. You guys have been through it. So really, okay, thanks. Yeah. So there's your answer. Like, if you talk to him, he almost will ignore you because he cannot feel empathy. He almost feels like you're a windbag talking too much because he has no empathy. He's been kicked out of UBC. He's been in a Julian Blanc situation, and he thinks that's really good, you know, he didn't choke women, but he was on the news. And for him, he's like an RSD victim. He's trained under RSD. He's completely socio. He does charge a lot, yeah. So like I said, I'm so surprised he's still in business. I thought I killed his business, but whatever. All right, 10 signs of a sociopath. So number one, you will notice is that they are charming. They tend to have a following because people want to be around them. They have this glow about them that attracts people who are typically seek guidance or sheeps or directions. They often appear to be sexy and have a strong sexual attraction. Not all sexy people are sociopaths, obviously, but watch for over-the-top sexual appetites and weird fetishes. So basically, what they're trying to say is that, can you remind me what narcissistic personality disorder is? We'll get into that. It's about ego. It's about grandiose sense of self. That's a very different thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm the best. But let's talk about psychopaths and sociopaths first. Okay, if you guys give a thumbs up. So you'll notice the first thing is that they cannot hide their sociopath eyes. All sociopaths, when you look at their eyes, right, dark tetrad, they have this weird, like, serial killer eyes. It's usually quite hypnotic. Justin Wayne has it. A lot of different coaches have it. It's like a Hitler, Charles Manson-like eyes. And the dark tetrad has a little bit of a different eyes. So the first thing you want to look for is all dating coaches for their eyes. Charisma King and Jan Lifestyle and RSD Tyler have crazy eyes. But for Justin Wayne and self-proclaimed high lay counts guy. So basically what happens is their eyes are like a little bit further apart here. You see that? It kind of like looks like outwards. So it kind of goes outwards a little bit like this. It's like 1.5 millimeters out. So that's called dark tetrad. Anyone you see with their pupils just a little bit further apart are just as dangerous as the other student that tries to screw me over for millions of dollars. Because what happens is that the eyes cannot be hidden. Even if they have like a smile here, okay? If they have a big smile, most of the PUAs, because of the autism, they cannot read facial expressions. They cannot see the smile. They only look at the eyes and they look at the smile. Even Ted Bundy, a serial killer, can give you this kind of eyes and this kind of smile. But in reality, Ted Bundy is dangerous. Hope that makes sense. Ted Bundy is extremely dangerous, but the autistic sheeps or RSD victims, they can't really tell the difference. So Owen of RSD equals weird. Exactly. RSD is a cult. So when we're looking at the first trait, sociopaths are charming. So basically, when you see Charisma King looking like a cult, or you see Tyler, you know, whenever you look at his thumbnail, you see this sort of glow around them. So when they talk about glow, what they mean by that is that all sociopaths, they have this charming glow. If you look at all the serial killers of cults and stuff, cult leaders, they all have this glow around them. It's not like something I'm making up. And RSD Tyler has it. So for example, cult. When you look at a picture of Charles Manson, there's almost this glow, like a Tyler glow. Hope that makes sense. And when you look at other cult leaders, okay, look at their eyes. Just to make sure I'm not bullshitting. Look at the eyes. You see that? Crooked on the side, exactly like I say. And they have this sociopathic eyes. So you ignore the smile. This is like real. You see that? Cover the face and look at the eyes. It's not like I'm making this shit up. I'm not making this shit up. They all have this kind of look. And when you look at Jim Jones over here, hopefully it shows up. Jim Jones made his entire cult drink poison Kool-Aid, and they all committed suicide. And once again, you see this sort of cult leader do you see that? Can you kind of sense there's a glow around them, a charming characteristic? And this is not something that's made up. Look at it. You can see it, isn't it? There's a charismatic glow. So from now on, when you see a dating coach that has this magical glow, run the other way, because even marketers and gurus, they all have the same kind of thing. This glow around them is extremely dangerous. Jan Lifestyle has it, Charisma King has it. Lots of dating coaches in RSD, almost all of them have it. RSD Max has it. It is something that is, I don't know how they got that glow, but when they charm the sheeps, they move their eyes around, the sheeps get charmed. The sheeps are also sociopaths themselves and autistic. It doesn't take much to charm them. Comfort them a little bit, move the crazy eyes. It's almost hypnotic. It's very hypnotic. So charisma, yeah, exactly. It's like the pastor told their church on the way to lockdown, they have to all look. Regardless, I'm reading from a list of sociopaths, so this is not something I made up. Okay, so what's the second trait? Well, sociopaths are more spontaneous and intense than other people. They tend to do bizarre and sometimes erratic things that most regular people wouldn't do. They're extremely unbound by normal social contracts. Their behavior can seem irrational or extremely risky. So there are times they definitely. Are you talking about John? No comment. Or I'm not talking about one dating coach. Extra walk. I'm not talking about one dating coach about the eyes and stuff. So no, I mean they all have that kind of eyes. You know what I mean? The sociopath eyes. So it's not just the sociopaths. We're looking at cult leaders. When we look at these intense eyes, and we're talking about dark tetrad, but they all have it. They all have it. So let's look at actual serial killers. Like we'll start with Ted Bundy. So I'm not making this shit up. So if you look at Ted Bundy's eyes, look at this, guys. What do you see? You might see a very happy, smiley person. But in reality, look at the eyes, exactly like I explained. Serial killer eyes, very scary looking. And it's not the smile that matters, because the autistic sheeps, if he was working for RSD, you guys would think he's an amazing dating coach. They always have the eyes. And Justin Wayne also has the crooked eyes. Like I said, a lot of dating coaches do have the crooked dark tetrad eyes. For me, look at my eyes. It's not crooked or anything. Like one side is not separated. So I do not have those traits. So 40 or smarter, but desperate for love. Sure. Go for you. Well, the thing with 40-year-old women and stuff is that a lot of them are single mothers or past their prime. So yes, it will be a lot easier. So there are used up women though. They are extremely jaded, as he says, and I agree with that. His real name is Marcus. But I won't say his last name. That's not important, because I don't want to say his information here. But he is not called Justin, and my name is not called Jonathan. My real name is called Gary, but never use that name. I fucking hate it. So now you're seeing Ted Bundy's name. Creatine, what the fuck? So let's look at another person who's a serial killer. We'll look at Adolf Hitler. Like I said, they're always money hungry, like Adolf Hitler himself too. Adolf Hitler. So I want you to look at the eyes and whether or not you can notice the sociopathic, like the crazy eyes. What you guys, can you see it? Can you see it? Look at it. You can't deny it. RSD Max has these eyes. Julian has these eyes. RSD Tyler has these eyes. Charisma King has these eyes. And this eyes is something that they have not been able to cover. So if you can see the eyes, and you can also look at marketing gurus. If you look at marketing gurus and they have that sort of eyes, they cannot hide this trait. It's impossible. It's impossible. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But daphno, that's a nootropic. So I've heard of that before. But you can kind of see more closer to the eyes. They have this extreme, stressed out looking, very, very crazy eyes. And that is something And you can see exactly that one eye is crooked. You see that? Exactly like I said, dark tetrad. Can you see one eye? The eye on this side is crooked, like I said. It's not something I'm making up. So the one side's crooked, exactly like I've written on the board. How does John know all this? Because John's telling you guys the exact truth. I haven't seen these pictures before I was on YouTube Live. But if you notice these traits, somehow they cannot hide this from the general public. You're not there. Can you do a video on the easiest, hardest women to go based on race? It really depends on your SMV relative to her. For women who are shallow, Latinas are extremely shallow. Latinas are sociopathic. So because of their bigger hips, they tend to go after bigger guys with protector status, height, and race. They typically go for, Latino or white guys, really tall. And they're like 6 foot something. I would say Latinas are probably a little bit harder for Asian men unless they're 5'11" themselves. Decent looking, muscular, all that. Latinas are shallow. More shallow than white women. So that's why I gotta say, for Asian men in relative, they're shorter. Okay. So by sociopaths, be more spontaneous to other people. They can do crazy and violent things out of nowhere. So, like I said, they do bizarre, sometimes erratic things that most normal people don't do. So it's almost like a red flag. Whenever you see a red flag from a sociopath, you see irrational behavior. You always dismiss it, thinking, well, he's just being him. You'd never want to overlook red flags. And for this student, when he was making a contract for me, he wanted to work with me. He started writing in a very Machiavellian way. And I was like, what the fuck? He said, I'm sorry, John, I'm going to revise the contract. And he does it again. Machiavellian manipulation. I was like, what the fuck? Third time, same thing. That was already a red flag. They're very erratic. And second thing is that you notice about them is that these guys, they love to talk about how sadistic they are. They'll enjoy, very violent things. They'll talk about how it doesn't bother them. So for them, it's really hilarious to them because they're sadistic. This is where the sadism comes from. This is why a lot of haters and a lot of trolls and a lot of people that are like that typically have that dark tetrad. Dark tetrad is more dangerous. Dark triad is kind of Okay. Let's continue. So trait number 3 is that sociopaths are incapable of feeling shame, guilt, or remorse. Their brains are simply lack the circuitry to process such emotions. This allows them to betray people, threaten people, and harm people without giving it a second thought. They pursue any actions that serve their own self-interest, even if it seriously harms others. This is why you find many of the successful sociopaths in high levels of government or any nation. So basically, this is kind of like what I'm trying to tell you guys, that they really, really are power hungry, money hungry. They're very greedy. And for them, they don't feel guilt, exactly like I said. So this is pretty accurate of this article. Hope that makes sense. I do have, it is on the latest blog post. So I made 2 blog posts. The first one is about dark triad personality. The second one that's coming up in a few days is going to be about autism and Asperger's. Because even the other student that screwed me over, he also has autistic traits, and I've been teaching a lot of impossible cases. So don't think I'm just attacking one person or many or a few. I'm actually saying this is the truth of most dating coaches and most PUAs. This is where they get their really weird reputation. But we cannot cover these issues and talk about RSD Tyler. That's my goal, is that in the future, Tyler is going to talk about how he is getting people out of the matrix. And if we don't cover the mental illnesses, we can never, ever talk about how Tyler is not getting people out of the matrix. He's actually a sociopathic cult leader. He's a sociopathic cult leader. Does that make sense, guys? If we don't cover this topic, PUAs will always go to RSD. They will not go to the right coaches, and they'll always be delusional. Knowing yourselves is the only way you can kind of suppress some of these behavior traits. Hope that makes sense. So, next one. Sociopaths invent outrageous lies about their experiences. They wildly exaggerate things to the point of absurdity. When they describe it to you in a storytelling format, for some reason, it sounds believable at the time. Like all white dating coaches, stats, field reports. Bullshit. Bullshit. Their fucking blog posts where they talk about like girls chase, all this bullshit, no proof of this. It's just, it's like Charisma King, just his teeth is just like lies through his teeth. Just talks like lies through his, like RSD just lies through their fucking teeth. Okay. Sociopath seeks to dominate and win at all costs. So this is one thing that I've noticed about that last student. He says, I must win at all costs no matter what. So in their mind is that they can justify any sort of atrocities, any fucked up behaviors, because they have to win at all costs. For me, I didn't have to win at all costs. I don't. But now you guys are starting to be more aware. And this is like not a made up thing. This is actually real. So in their mind, because a lot of PUAs believe that they have to win at all costs, this is why they're delusional. Sometimes when I try to teach a student, I'm trying to say, this is how things are going to work. He would think because he's right, he has to win at all costs. He will tell me, John, I disagree with you, and be very resistant. And it will take a long time to really get through to him because his opinions is facts. So a lot of the hard cases, or a lot of the dark triad students, there's not a lot of dark tetrad, but there are a few, but the dark triad personality. So this is called comorbidity. It means multiple mental illnesses. So we're just covering the cluster A, guys. Just cluster A. There's at least 3 or 4 videos to explain all the mental illnesses, because all PUAs have exactly the same set of mental illnesses. So if some people stop practicing if they go through the wrong coaches and they quit pick up. So RSD, if so, RSD is dangerous. Yeah, all the pills are just the delusions, because opinions is facts, which is the last trait I'll get into. Once I get to it, a lot of your questions will be answered when we go through all these traits. So sociopaths tend to be highly intelligent, but they use their brain power to deceive others, then empower them. Their high IQ often makes them dangerous. This is why many of the best-known serial killers who successfully evaded law enforcement were sociopaths. So they know how to evade the police. I'm telling you, these guys are good at evading the police. They can evade all these other things. But the thing is that what most of you don't realize is that when you look over to their crazy mask of sanity, all their behaviors that you see for sociopaths, they believe that they're smart or clever. They believe that other people cannot see the traits. So when they operate, they're always sneaky. They always have a sneaky look about them. They think nobody can see it, but you can still see the eyes and the smile. And for example, my student who's in Elite 60, he told me in India that one time somebody stole his phone. And the police laughed at him, like, oh, you're so stupid, right? You should not have kept it in your front pocket. And then his mother would be like, you're so stupid. How dare you get your phones? Instead of blaming the person stealing, the sociopath. In India, there's a lot of sociopaths from what he's told me, that student. So he says he gets screwed over all the time. John, he tells me all these stories. He says, John, you're right, but this happens every day in India. They're always trying to screw people over. And I was like, what the fuck? So for them, you got to look at the face, but their mindset for dark triad is how to screw people over. Hope that makes sense. See, what's my exact point? I want to make sure I remember it. They're highly intelligent, but the thing is that the sociopaths believe they're very clever, but it's like a game of chess. Their moves especially that Asian student that screwed me over, recently. Tall Asian guy, 3 weeks. It's okay, I forgive him. And this video is not to insult him, but all his characteristics, I already saw through him. Delusions, this, that. He thought he was very clever, but I saw right through him. I'm very well connected to the universe. And the universe said, to him, John is a saint. He's helping other Asian men. You're wasting his time with your narcissism. How much of his time are you going to take? You are evil. And he was like, shit. He was emotionally devastated because I saw through his mask. A lot of the things that I teach you guys are from up there. So you wonder, how come John knows all this shit about the game? And why does it always work? The kind of things I teach you, you got to think, the reason why it goes beyond the 33% that's transferable is because most likely I am not delusional. I'm not delusional. So therefore, most sociopaths, they think they're smart and they evade stuff, but they're almost like, the best way to understand it is that they're a tumor. When you see them from like a perspective of a tumor, like a cancer, you can say this is a tumor. Tumors are benign, they're not dangerous. Cancer, however, is very dangerous, dark tetrad. So for this one, they always have the same characteristics to screw people over. And it's always identical. So in some ways, you can say that dark tetrad, they think they're very, very clever. But in reality, it's almost like very predictable. Hope that makes sense. Like I said, I'm not talking about anyone in the past or anything like that. I'm talking about like everyone. So when I talk about one quality, I'm talking about over a few hundred students. And of course, this is not surprising to me that they actually act exactly the same. So I would say they're not clever, they're not bright, but we'll talk about autism and other mental illnesses mixed together. I really feel like I need to win at all costs. I'm using psycho-cybernetics to picture myself, be more charitable. You think if I work on my subconscious, you cannot fix it. I'm sorry, once you're a dark tetrad, it is impossible to fix. Because the people that went to jail and stuff, do you think they were fixed? No, because to understand the brain of a sociopath, okay, or a psychopath. So if this is a human brain, let's say from the very top here, okay? So this is the brain, and this is divided in half. There's basically a big starfish design here. You see that? And over here in this starfish, there is no activity here, none. So therefore, a lot of their brain is not activated, it's not lit. So when their brain is not lit, they can't feel empathy, guilt, or a lot of these feelings. It is the physical problem with the brain. This is why a lot of PUAs, when I try to teach them how to connect better with women, they're not able to connect because they're narcissism. They talk about themselves a lot. And their brain for guilt and also empathy is not there. But the thing about sociopaths that are different about the guilt is that when they're around women, they can turn on the emotions because they want to pass on the tumor or cancer. They can turn on the emotion and get very emotional, emote very well with women. Psychopaths cannot because they don't want girlfriends, they don't want that shit. But sociopaths can turn on their emotions. That's the only time they can connect very strongly with the women. And when they're tall and they're strong, and they have this SMV advantage, what happens is, even with autism, which I'll talk about in the future YouTube Live, what happens is that the women feels like, even when they're emotional snowflake cunt with autism and sociopathy, multiple mental illnesses, which I'll get through all of them. This is just cluster A. The women, if they have high SMV, can really connect. It's almost like they have a huge mating advantage. That means for passing on their genes, by having these dark, malevolent, dangerous traits, women find it very, very attractive. And that's the thing though. Women are not always, well, let's just say they're not that bright. It's always about value for them. But when you have these traits, women are more likely to procreate with you. I know that sounds really fucked up, but it really, really works. Really, really works. Okay. Do you think some communities, if you read the Bible enough from Jesus' words, that's why I tell my students, actually I tell a lot of students, if they're very evil, it has affected their heart. See, the heart is energy, or the soul. The energy can affect the mind because the mind is neurochemicals. It's almost like an electric storm. And the storm can affect the emotions. It can affect, I know a lot of people are not liking what they're hearing and they're dropping off. That's fine. So Jesus Christ, this is terrifying. Yeah. So sociopaths are incapable of love. They are entirely self-serving. They may feign love. Feign means like fake love or compassion in order to get what they want, but they don't actually feel the love that you and I feel. So that's pretty accurate. The kind of love that they feel is a deceptive love, a deceptive kind of love, but it's very powerful. Women do fall for it. And this is where procreation can happen. These dark tetrad is only 2% of the society. So usually when society sees the dark tetrad, they don't like it. It's like antibodies. It kind of like people just sort of gets turned off. Just like the old days when they see through the mask. Hope that makes sense. DMT can cure sociopathy. Many people have talked about animals, and that's debatable. But for human beings, there has never been a cure yet. If there was a cure, it'll be all over. Like they'll pump this stuff into like, or whatever this thing is, into prisoners and stuff. But so far there is no cure. I'm sorry, but there's no cure because the starfish shape. You can't just use DMT to fill in that star-shaped design of the brain. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Sociopaths speak poetically. They are master wordsmiths. They're able to deliver a running stream of consciousness monologue that is both intriguing and hypnotic. They are expert storytellers and even poets. A great example of this action is Charles Manson. Okay, so for example, let's look at someone like RSD Tyler. For me, I'm not trying to be like a fucking cult. I'm deprogramming all of you. But someone like RSD Tyler can rant for like, I don't know, all day about nonsense. And the way they charm you with the eyes, like Tyler, and master wordsmiths, even RSD Todd or Todd Valentine. He's Asperger's because he lacks facial expressions. But for people like that, in the whole RSD, they're master wordsmiths, especially RSD Jeffy. He's fooled more people in Vancouver and ruined their lives than a lot of people because he's a master public speaker. It's unintentional that the other guy won 3 first place and 1 third place for my training in public speaking. That other student is, I didn't know that the way I'm speaking is actually transferable. Neither are my sales skills. I never knew he was going to close 2.2 million in 3 weeks. It's like my game is very transferable. That's why it's very dangerous. It gets people likes to use me for my abilities and skill set, especially these types who are power hungry and money hungry. So, but for him, yeah, the master wordsmith. But I think people like RSD and a lot of dating coaches, they're very good at talking. Okay, I'm not bad, but I don't think I'm that good. I'm just speaking from the heart. You know what I mean? I'm just speaking from the heart. I'm just telling people this is the gospel. It's not like this is a fucking cult, because I don't believe in cults. And second of all, I'm brainwashing you. This is called deprogramming. You know, sometimes when they deprogram people from cults, sociopathic cults, they'll kidnap the person and they'll ask them a lot of questions. Why do you believe in this and that? They try to deprogram them, but that's not legal. That's not legal. So when you guys are being deprogrammed, when you saw the red pill video, all this stuff, you are slowly being deprogrammed from all this bullshit. So let's look at the next trait. If you guys are liking it, give it a thumbs up. Sociopaths never apologize. They are never wrong. They never feel guilt. They can never apologize. Even if they've shown proof they are wrong, they refuse to apologize. Instead, they go on the attack. So basically, for the people who are sociopathic in the past, I think one of my parents or both of them are sociopathic as shit, but I'm not a sociopath myself. But however, I've dealt with a lot of sociopaths. They never apologize. They never say they're sorry because in their mind, they're never wrong. And because they're never wrong, when I teach them the game, they'll always dismiss it because in their mind, they can never be wrong. They'll never take responsibility. They'll never take extreme ownership. You know, for me, if I made a mistake, I could say, yeah, I made a mistake. For them, they can never, ever admit to a mistake because in their mind, like Charles Manson, they are never, ever wrong. Look at Charisma King. He's been wrong about everything. So far, Charisma King has not been able to get a single late testimonial for all these years. He's delusional as fuck, which we'll get into the next point. But in his mind, he is never wrong. He is never wrong. So let's look at the last one. Sociopaths are delusional and literally believe what they say becomes the truth, merely because they say it. Charles Manson, the sociopathic murderer, is famous for saying I've never killed anyone. I don't need to kill anyone. I think here, he pointing to his temple. I don't need to live in this physical realm. Like he literally said that he does. That sounds delusional as fuck. But you see how they think. They're all delusional, no matter what. Just like the other student when I was teaching is delusional as fuck. Every single thought, to grow his business and stuff is all fucked up. They always dismiss because they're always right in their mind. They always stonewall you. That means they don't listen and they say, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. So they're stonewallers. They never admit they're wrong and they're delusional as fuck. And you look at RSD Tyler. If he was so correct, then they will get more student results. Am I right? So the dating coaches who don't have a lot of testimonials, they're delusional. So what does delusion mean? Delusion means that, one second. Oh, here's Adolf Hitler. So delusional, what's the meaning? Characterized by holding idiosyncratic belief or impressions that are contradicted by reality or rational argument, typically symptoms of mental disorders. So basically, what it means is that their belief does not match the reality. And everything Charisma King says that this is how the game works. It has never came to fruition. None of it led to testimonials. It's all pure delusion. So is RSD. So delusions in the students, and I'll be talking about different mental illnesses in the future, the different mental illnesses that the students have. Because with autism, they also have a new level of delusions too, in possible cases, in hard cases. So that will be, maybe I can put them all into one big YouTube live. Maybe I can just say the entire thing. Prisoners aren't real sociopaths except some in the world leaders, higher up, overall work employees, point of onset crime. Well, I would say that they are more than 60% of the prison population. And that's huge. And within that prison population, I think somewhere around 10, 15% are psychopaths. So while not all the prisoners are sociopaths, they do make up a big proportion of the jail. And a lot of them are black. So people end up in prisons, break laws out of desperation, retaliation against. No. I mean, it's a mental illness too. If you guys are gay and give it a thumbs up, I'm going to say some real shit. Latinos cut off each other's heads, behead each other. They kill each other. And it's not because of some unjust thing. It's because the reason why it's unjust is because the whole society is manifested by the dark tetrad or dark triad. So the whole society, in Indians, they will piss on the streets, they'll rape women, they'll put glass in their pussy. That's what my student told me. If that's true or not, that's fucked up. But they'll do that kind of shit. It's almost like everyone's like fucked up in India. Just like my Pakistani mentor says, never trust brown people, even if he has a brown skin himself. But you see a lot of people within a lot of different races. In Middle Eastern people, very violent. It is not because of the poverty. It is because of the mentality. It is the mindset. It is the mental illness that causes their poverty. Hope that makes sense. It's a symptom. The poverty is just a symptom or a manifestation of sociopathy, because it's the thoughts and feelings. And if you're vibrating at 94.5 sociopathy FM, the society is gonna manifest itself like that. Hope that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. So I have to disagree with that assertion. So it's not desperate. Run as a victim mentality, you can never win. Yeah, I totally disagree with that. So a lot of dating coaches who are charming, charismatic, once they show the serial killer eyes, they'll charm the sheeps. And the sheeps will follow and they'll be like, bah, bah. So the sheeps have very low IQ. So there's an emotional IQ. IQ is 3 different things. So for me, when I look at the students, I look at 3 qualities. Number 1, I look at the IQ as in how delusional they are. The second thing I look for is their emotional IQ. So for example, the guy who screwed me over, that Asian guy, he was really upset over the Jesus thing when I made him read the verses. He was a snowflake. So a lot of Indians are snowflakes. A lot of narcissistic people like Chinese are snowflakes because of narcissistic personality disorder. So this is called the EQ, the emotional intelligence. Because the autism, extrasensory, a lot of times outside my narcissism, sometimes I do get angry in the past when people piss me off, because that's a low self-esteem, high ego. It's always like, yeah, John has most testimonials, fuck you all, you all suck. But the thing was that now that the self-esteem took care of itself, the narcissism or narcissistic abuse, which can happen, the narcissistic abuse is usually when somebody pisses you off, you want to attack back. That has been reduced dramatically. Right now, I don't feel a great deal of emotional snowflake cuntish behavior. That snowflake overly offended behavior is a manifestation of low self-esteem. So you always got to think, when you think about a katana sword, the word is temper, tempered steel. Temper means it is sharp. It is pressed together, sharp. When you lose your temper, and when you're a snowflake, you're emotional. This is what they like to say. A lot of sociopathic people are extremely, extremely, extremely emotional. They get bothered a lot very easily. Their ego is high, and they're always like red-eyed. So when you look at these traits over here, you look at the narcissism, sociopathy. At first, they get depressed, and that's not normal. That's a low EQ, emotional quotient. The second one is that the lower self and the red-eye, the evil sort of behavior. For that, it means they have a very low emotional intelligence. Even though I'm very smart, I have an IQ 175, which is above most of the society, like a genius level IQ. But it doesn't mean shit, because you also got to think about the EQ. The emotional intelligence is just as important. So for example, my IQ may be high, my EQ may not be as high as my IQ. And for a lot of these dark tetrad people, their EQ, or emotional quotient as they call it, is extremely, extremely low. So they may have a score of 80 IQ. Even though they think they're very clever and they're very sneaky, they might have a very low IQ. They are not bright. They're a little bit on the autistic side. They are not bright at all. At all. I'm just telling you, they are not bright. However, since they're not bright, their EQ, because even the Indian student, when he told me he gets triggered easily. Almost all the Indian students I have, they get triggered extremely easily because they have low self-esteem and high ego, which is narcissistic personality disorder, which we'll talk about. Hope that's starting to make sense. Like, hope all this is starting to become like it's starting to make sense. And the spiritual IQ is that these guys, of course, depending, they can still be a spiritual person, but you can have dark tetrad. And if you try to use spirituality, it doesn't mean that they'll manifest good things. They could still be spiritual and they could still be extremely evil because their EQ is extremely low and their spiritual IQ is extremely low because the frequency they're vibrating is almost like a tumor, very dangerous tumor. And that's what people do not understand. So let's continue because this is, Okay, the sheeps will follow, and they have low IQ, low EQ, and spiritual IQ. As RSD says, do you remember the Middle Eastern guy? He says RSD believes that the students are hurt. So they know all the students are sociopaths. They're hurt because of narcissism and the sociopathy. So they try to teach them blue pill stuff first. And they try to ease them over onto a red pill. Hope that makes sense. Blue pill to red pill because they're hurt. And that's to RSD's words themselves. They are hurt. So what does RSD mean by they are hurt? They are meaning like they have these qualities. And I haven't even talked about autism or Asperger's or other traits like that yet. So victim mentality can never win. Like, so people who end up in prison break laws. Yeah. Let's continue. So the sheeps have to worship so they can turn off their critical thinking. They give their neural pathways because they are weak. They are emotionally weak like women because of low EQ and their extreme trigger behavior. That's why they always worship guys like Jan Lifestyle or tall, handsome dating coaches or muscular, tall dating coaches. Have you noticed that? They trust tall dating coaches. These guys with dark triad personality and autism. They trust these coaches. It's almost like they're reversed. They're almost like women, the behavior. They're almost like battered women or abused women. That's exactly how the sheeps act like. And they have very low IQ because of the sociopathy. And also they have the autism. Hope that makes sense. So they feel comfort. This is why RSD Tyler is always doing that charm thing. He's always trying to be charming to the sheeps. He's charming the sheeps. Like RSD Tyler just gives a crazy eye and charm the sheeps. So when they charm the sheeps, okay, this is where they get that glow. And this is why RSD victims always need comfort, because the higher the self-esteem, the lower the ego. So for example, a lot of this problem with narcissism is that high self-esteem equals lower ego. So basically the opposite is true. The lower the ego, the higher the self-esteem. So for a lot of these guys who are RSD victims, a lot of them actually have very low self-esteem because of the narcissism. And the ones who have the highest narcissistic personality of all my students are two races. Two of them. Chinese, number one. I'm going to call you guys out. Because even though I'm Chinese myself, nobody has a free right or free reign under me. I'm just going to tell you guys the truth. And number two, Indians. These two races are the most narcissistic in the world. It's almost like for their EQ, and the guy who screwed me over, right? He's Chinese too, so go figure. The point is, their EQ is the lowest in the world, Indians and Chinese. And the problem with that, when you look at China after COVID-19 and you look at their response, they're more like the psychopaths. They don't have any emotions whatsoever. And I'm calling them out too. They don't care that they infected the whole world. They don't even take responsibility. They don't even have empathy. So that's different than a sociopath who has no guilt. These guys have no empathy for other countries. Even when they're sending face masks to Canada, they're fucking stole the shipment. That's how they think. So there's a difference between sociopathy and psychopathy. Hope that makes sense. So EQ is very, very low among certain races, especially because they have high ego. And this is why, because of the high ego, you see a lot of these RSD victims going to RSD. They go to RSD because they're hurt. They're hurt because they dress like shit. That's why I don't dress like shit. When they wear RSD hoodies and stuff, they're really lowering their self-esteem. Their self-esteem is so low that their ego is so high. That's why they can't listen. Because once the narcissism is super high, the sociopathy becomes super high. Okay? When that's super high, they become delusional. This is why RSD victims, like I've written, they always think they're right. They never listen to you. And they're always going to the charming dating coaches, exactly like they're written. Hope that makes sense. We have to schedule a Skype appointment through WhatsApp, or with you if we have Skypes. Yeah, schedule an appointment with me when you're ready. You know, when you paid for it, when you pay for the courses and stuff. And during COVID-19, skills are very important because now the Chinese, right, are basically, we're going through a lot of hate crime. They're blaming all the Chinese, even if we never been to Asia before. They're saying, fuck you, you Chinese fucking whatever you caused COVID-19. So your game has to be better. And I'm going to write a new book to help you with your inner game and stuff like that. Hope that makes sense. The only ones left are John. It's kind of dead anyways, but I hope this doesn't go on. It will not go on a tangent because today's is going to make a big difference. Because the fact I'm talking about this mental illness, this is the only way we can talk about RSD. If you guys like it, give it a thumbs up. Because they may go off on a tangent, but David Swift is a sociopath. So what's NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder? Let's talk about that. So narcissistic people are just as dangerous as autism to women. But the difference is that if you have high SMV, your narcissism can be identified to women as confidence, which is very strange because women are not very bright. Let's just say that. When you play sociopath game or a little bit of narcissism, women will fall for it every time. That means they'll try to put up their defenses like, oh yeah, you talk to every other girl like that. Or they say something like, but it doesn't bother you if you're a sociopath because you have no guilt and you continue to plow forward. So this is called sociopath game. And women don't know how to deal with that. So they fall for it. Their defenses goes down because they're almost like an autoresponder. It's kind of like email. You know how email, they automatically can respond? You sign up and they start sending you emails. Women are doing exactly the same thing. So when their emails don't work or what they're saying, what happens is a sociopath will just say nothing and just insult her and continue to plow over her. You know, they'll just walk all over her. So for doctors, health professionals, they often use this new edition of the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5. This is like a book that all psychologists and psychiatrists use. They call it a DSM, digital manual, or something of digital something manual, or diagnostic something manual, to diagnose mental disorders such as NPD. So NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder, has these traits according to the DSM-5, which is the newest version of the book. Having an inflated sense of self-importance and entitlement. Exactly what I've experienced from the other student. He always tell me how he's so great, and I said, why are you great? The only accomplishments you ever had in life was through my coaching. I don't know, but he just feels great. He just got pat himself on the back all the time. So they're needing constant admiration and praise. They always need to be like, oh yeah, everyone's, oh yeah. They're always expecting special treatment due to perceived superiority. And trust me, I was very narcissistic before. So exaggerated achievements and talents. Reacting negatively to criticism. So for them, that's why they're triggered. People who are snowflake cunts. So during this generation, we have seen more of what they call snowflakes. Snowflakes are people that are easily triggered. When they're easily triggered, that means their EQ is low and their narcissism is high. And their self-esteem is rock bottom. And Dan Pena made some videos about snowflakes. In the old days, he has never heard of the word snowflake. He believed it's only for this generation of people, this sort of like decade. This has never been true before, which is very strange. Snowflake cunts, the students who are in possible cases or dark tetrad, typically have a snowflake kind of behavior, which is very, very fucked up. Very low EQ, but they get triggered. Being preoccupied with fantasies about power, success, and beauty. So they're always, like I said, with dark tetrad, they're always about success, this and that. They're taking advantage of others. Having an inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and the feelings of other people. So it's not just the lack of empathy of psychopaths. even though the sociopaths can still connect with women when they really need to procreate. It is that they are so there's so much ego. So, for example, on an Insta date, most narcissistic people will be always talking about themselves and how great they are. That's why their Insta dates does not go to the second or third venue. They're not talking about the women. They should be narcissistic about the women, but instead they are talking about themselves. Because they're always talking about themselves, it always goes backwards in the conversation. It loops back to them. So they have the lack of empathy in that regard. So even having a very high amount of NPD or narcissistic personality disorder. Sorry, I got something in my nose. It feels like I cut my nose hairs, but anyways, who cares? The point is, they don't have empathy. They can't recognize the needs and feelings of other people, and they're behaving in an arrogant manner. How great they are and all that shit. Nobody, I was very narcissistic, and I used to brag a lot. If I post all my testimonials, let's just say for boot camps, there's going to be over 30 boot camp testimonials, especially from Johnny Elite, the old dating coach. So back in 2013, 2014, when I was a dating coach, I already have more than 15 fucking testimonials, and John Wayne has another bunch, and then Johnny Elite has more. So for boot camps, there's over 30 of them, maybe 31, 32, someone like that. If I go back to all the old students that I didn't document, it's probably close to 35 or something, or 40, probably closer to almost 40. And you're like, what the fuck? And you look at all my testimonials. So if somebody was arrogant, I saw other dating coaches trying to be arrogant, they're nothing compared to me. And it's not to be arrogant. I'm just saying that kind of arrogance can get to people. I saw dating coaches saying, oh yeah, I'm the best, right? But they have a random white guy. And I was like, dude, you only have 12 testimonials, or maybe 8 of them. How are you the best? And they're like, oh shit. Or another guy, he has 12 testimonials. I was like, 430 at the time versus 12. How are you the best? But they get very narcissistic. And maybe I was very arrogant. So I apologize if John Wayne was one of the most arrogant dating coaches in the world, which I was. So I also have a very high narcissistic personality disorder in the past, but it has gone down because I dress better, I wear nicer clothes, and I start having self-esteem. So it doesn't bother me as much, even if the other students screw me over. I hate that sort of discrimination. Before COVID, I got attacked in public by being Latino. It pisses me off. Hope you're not being targeted for your race. With mirror neurons, does the behavior rubs off on us, or does it repel us? Okay. In COVID-19, first of all, if you have black hair, right, all black and not brown or whatever, they're going to target you. They're going to say Chinaman, chink, gook, whatever. And fuck you for starting COVID-19. Even though you never, that's what they're going to say. Okay. And I know it doesn't sound great, but that's what they'll say. But for me, I'm very whitewashed, so they don't target me. When they see me with blazers and stuff, I dress like a white guy. It's hard to tell, for them, they want to target the guys who are very Chinese-like, the stereotypical Chinese. So any qualities of dragons on the back of your fucking jacket, or streetwear, or, black hair with messy hair, you're going to get targeted. They're going to throw a drink at you, or they're going to go in your face and say, fuck. So I better start teaching the Asians how to fight in Krav Maga or something. That's why I'm going to release a new book called, instead of The Art of War, it's called The Science of Day Game. But yes. So most of the psychologists haven't scratched the surface of these mental illnesses. So for my students, even if they wear nice clothing all the time, higher the ego, lower self-esteem, lowers the ego, higher self-esteem. But for narcissistic sociopaths, the greedy kind, no matter how much self-esteem they have, it doesn't lower their ego. That's what I've noticed. Even the other student starts wearing exactly the same kind of Rolex watch when he has to practice. When I was teaching him, for example, public speaking, he had to wear exactly the same watch and put his hair up. But in reality, he started looking at his hair one day. He was just like, oh yeah, look at me, I look so K-pop, right? And I was like, what the fuck, man? And he no longer could study. And that's one day before the competition. He was having emotional problems. So for most students, for most RSD victims, in order for them to really listen to my message without anger and narcissism, they have to dress nicer. So they have to get the same haircut, the same clothing and stuff, and their self-esteem will go up and their ego will go down. But the biggest problem with dark tetrad is that the more ego that they have, the better they dress, the more evil they become, which is strange because it seems like everything feeds their ego. They are born evil. I don't see that many thumbs up because a lot of this stuff is so new to you guys. It is so truthful. And you see this among pickup artists. This is like a real mind fuck. And I get it. It's okay if you don't give a thumbs up right now. But if you guys are getting this, this is not like some made up thing. This is how they operate. This is how they operate. So, like I said, higher ego, low self-esteem. So what is Machiavellianism? So Niccolo Machiavelli, the third trait over here, is a person in politics. So Niccolo Machiavelli. So for the third trait, we're talking about Machiavelli. 1, 2, 3. Machiavelli is the manipulation. Just like the other guy tried to manipulate me. And trust me, when you have power and when you're very good at what you do, people want to manipulate you. The very first thing they're thinking is that for this type of sociopath wearing a mask, in the beginning, they typically think that they create short-lived alliances, which I'll talk about very soon, because there'll be an article and paragraphs on it. They'll work with you in a short alliance, but they'll manipulate you. So the very first thing they do is they try to pretend to be your friend. So this is where the mask is. You don't really notice it, but you notice the eyes, but you dismiss it. You ignore the red flags. So the first stage is that once they're invited, they always want to work with you, and then afterwards they'll start learning you. So for the Machiavelli manipulator, they'll start learning about all your strengths and all your weaknesses. They want to know how you tick. All of them will pretend to be your best friend. And for this student, there's a point when they turn really, really evil. So at first they learn you. So the first stage is learning, right? 1 is learning. Number 2 is that they'll know your weaknesses, so weaknesses. And number 3, they'll shake the walls. It's kind of like demons. You know, demons will shake your walls. Once that you play with the Ouija board and shit, you invite the bad spirits. And number 4, they'll try to possess you. Number 5, when you try to leave, they try to kill you. So this is universal. But the student, this one, because he realized that he was screwing me over and going through all these traits, I've even taught him about it. He was like, John, I'm so sorry. Shit, I didn't want to do this. What the fuck? Why did I do this to you? He was going to take 97% of the money, give me 3%, which is the cut 6% in his industry. So this is how they operate. They operate under, like I said, at first they'll pretend to be your friend. They'll learn you. Then crazy more red flags happen. Because a lot of the times, a lot of these alliances with dark tetrad is very short-lived. For this student, it only took 2 months before I figured him out and I left. So I signed the release form on the contract. I'm no longer working with him. I'm not here to insult him. I'm not here to hurt his reputation. I will not do that in public. He is sorry. He's very apologetic because he realized he went through all these traits. And he's like, John, you've been through this stuff before. I'm like, John, I'm so sorry. And it's like, I understand. I understand. He says this is the first time in his life he ever felt remorse. But this is what they call Machiavelli manipulation. So when you look at RSD, a lot of the marketers, they don't actually know how to market. You think, like, for example, I've got some books here about marketing, okay? I've got a lot of books about marketing. So these are some of the really good books about marketing. They're really world-class level. I'll show you 2 of them. So I was reading this one called .com Secrets, really great book, and sell like crazy. So this is about marketing. But a lot of the people who are RSD and stuff, they don't actually know anything about marketing. It's not like they're taught how to market. They just know how to manipulate. Because of these dark tetrad, what happens is that for marketing, they have the Machiavelli manipulation. So they know how to manipulate the sheeps because they know the sheeps are hurt, because they believe that all the sheeps are all hurt. That oftentimes they'll be like, John, you should, be nicer to people because they're all like, they're already emotionally damaged. That's why they come to you, because if they're not, they will not join pickup artistry and shit. Or a lot of RSD, their mentality is because the students already hurt. But they manipulate people because they believe that they're sheeps. With autism, because the autism cannot see the fake smile in the psychopathic eyes. What happens is RSD is the most manipulative company in the world. I've never seen anything like it. That's why I went all the way to California to meet Dan Pena and ask him how to take down RSD. I would say RSD, I've never seen anything so manipulative. And I know behind the scenes because the Middle Eastern student actually works with RSD and he got no results. Neither does his friend who wanted to work with me. The thing is, he told me all about RSD and how they manipulate people. Both of them did. Both of them did. And I know everything about their payrolls, how they screw people over. So for RSD, their Machiavelli manipulation is that because if they give advice videos, a lot of bullshit advice, they want to reciprocate. And this is not something I'm making up here, by the way. I'm not making this up because there is a book here called Influence. This is RSD's playbook. So this is a psychology book called Influence. This is RSD like word for word. So according to this book, okay, there is reciprocation. You see that? Just to make sure that when I talk about Machiavelli manipulation, reciprocation, I'm not making this up. They believe that by giving you something like free advice, because of your narcissism, this is what I've known from narcissistic personality disorder. Because narcissistic people or dark tetrad are such value takers that if you give them something nice, they feel compelled to give you something back. So the more advice videos you get from RSD, the more you feel compelled to give them back. So the more content you consume from RSD, the more you feel like you want to, buy their products or coaching, but this stuff does not work. They're completely manipulative. I saw a slide of mouse and I'm wondering if I should read Zero Resistance Selling. It's all good. Is the V-neck better or button down? Both are good. Both are good. Mirror neurons, you cannot improve it. It is a hardware issue. But like I said, all this marketing, a lot of these guys, they don't actually know a single thing about marketing because they never read a book. They can't even fucking read. Most of these guys cannot read. However, because I didn't know anything about marketing, that's why I was so honest before. As John Wayne and Gaming Elite, I just tell people, just like this YouTube Live, the truth of how things really work. They're always spinning information. So basically, the spin is like Hitler. Hitler can take a situation and brainwash people. So in order for the Machiavellian to make the spin, they'll control two factors. So according to them, and trust me, I know all the tactics. Maybe I've been taught how to do it. I don't want to do it. By affecting the things that you see on screen, like writing certain letters and stuff, you appeal to the visual side to manipulate. And you try to use a commentary on the side for the auditory. Then you try to attack the people, the sheeps, because they're autistic, from what I've learned, their emotions. So you try to hit them from 3 different angles. You try to get them emotional, and you try to brainwash the logic. And you're probably thinking, so what the fuck? I know, what the fuck? So I didn't do it. I refuse to do shit like that because I'm not even being emotional. And if I want to manipulate, you gotta be careful how they become emotional. They cannot feel emotions themselves. Like they're emotional, but they can't feel anything. No, they can feel a lot. They're just not emotional. So Machiavellians only focus on their own ambitions and interests, like RSD. They prioritize money and power over relationships. They come across as charming and confident. Exploit and manipulate others to get ahead. Exactly what happened to me with this Asian guy. They lie and deceive when required, which is true, like RSD. They use flattery often. They're lacking in principles and values. They can only come across as aloof, kind of like, or hard to really get to know. Cynical of goodness and morality, just like the other student when he's reading Jesus. He's very cynical. It cannot coexist with good ideology. Capable of causing others harm to achieve their means. So that's the thing, though. So you'll see this among a lot of dating coaches. Justin Wayne, for example, is someone who's very manipulative. Low levels of empathy, often avoids commitment and emotional attachments. It's not true of all dark triad, but this is just for Machiavelli manipulation. So can be very patient due to calculating nature. Exactly. So when I'm talking about them learning you in the process, they can be very calculating. They'll learn you at first, and they'll look for your strengths and weaknesses. The walls will shake, and then they'll attack and possess, and then they'll try to fuck you over. Before that happens, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about a tumor will infect a good host and try to manipulate, and you'll start to understand. The lack of warmth in social interactions, not always aware of the consequences of their actions, might struggle to identify their own emotions. And that sounds exactly like the other student. Exactly. So basically, if you have a higher SMV, you go in upward spiral. So if you're a positive stereotype, it goes upwards like this. If you're a little bit on the negative stereotype, all these delusions and stuff, opinions and facts will go downhill. Hope that makes sense. So they usually dismiss things about their values. They always saying that it's their game. It's a delusion. It's a delusion. They always say it's their game. They ignore the value. Because in game is value, 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 skill, skill, skill game. Looks, height, muscles, money, only rate out of 5. Status, race, or what they look like. Social skills, none of the dating coaches besides me have social skills. Have you noticed not even Queefing Casanova or Jan Lifestyle or all these other people, ABCs of attraction, they don't actually have any social skills. And we'll get into that in the future when we talk about autism and Asperger's. Like I said, I'm not here to talk about anyone or attack anyone. I just want people to understand how all this shit works. Because all PUAs have this kind of genetic code. This is just the first cluster, cluster A. Cluster B will be next next YouTube Live. And cluster C will be about ADD and OCD or ADHD. So this is called comorbidity. Comorbidity means multiple mental illnesses. And all PUAs have pretty much the same combination. It's either sociopathy or psychopathy or sadism, or it's autism or Asperger's. So it depends on which one they have. So my point is PUAs have blind spots about their sexual market value. Delusional, like Charles Manson, they dismiss things. They're SMV deniers. And they're way over the 20 out of 35 line. If looks is out of 10, money is out of 5. Race or whatever perceived race is out of 10. The other ones are like skill game is all out of 10. So social skills could be a big chunk of the numbers, by the way, big chunk of the numbers. So they get mentally trapped inside this dark tetrad sociopathic dating coaches telling them it's all game. So when I made the red pill videos, the black pill, the purple pill, the blue pill, MGTOW, it's always these mental issues. Do you see why these PUAs, they get trapped mentally into this ideologies and systems? None of the pills are accurate. They're all half-truths. They're only pieces of a continent. Does that make sense? So you should not think that, oh, MGTOW is right or red pill is the only way, because blue pill can have a lot of social skills and they can still have girlfriends and stuff too. It doesn't mean all blue pill is wrong, but sometimes the blue pill, they can get burned by women, they become MGTOW. But the black pill that tries to become MGTOW later, it's not going to work because they're autistic. So conclusion, all PUAs have this cluster of mental illnesses. And they also have autism or Asperger's. And the only thing that separates them is just good and evil for the soul. So One of my students who has a lot of these clusters of mental illness, my 18-year-old student, the guy from high school who got a blowjob recently. I'll post his next testimonial soon where he got laid during COVID-19, the coronavirus era. So he did it in public. But for him, he was grateful. So therefore his spirit was grateful. Even though he has a lot of these characteristics, he's still very grateful. So let's see. That's comorbidity. Do you guys want me to cover autism right now? Or do you want me to, hey, what's up? I noticed these times you focus less on pickup and more on psychology. It's not about psychology. It's just I want to make sure that when I talk about all this stuff, it's more the mindsets. It's not just pickup, because I told you it's not all game. It's not all game. So you should not mix it with the mindsets is what makes people operate. When people need to make more money, their mindsets, the thoughts and feelings is what creates their results. Thoughts, feelings, and skills. For you, you're lacking the skills. Your mindsets are kind of very shallow. Okay? It's very shallow, and you need to the mindset. That's why it's very important. But when I'm talking about pickup, the reason I'm talking about psychology is because I need to attack RSD, because their concept about them being in the matrix and getting you guys out, they are really the agents of the matrix. By getting you to understand this, that they are sociopaths themselves and dark tetrad, then I can finally, all the other RSD sheeps who are also dark triad, I can finally free your mind. Does that make sense? I have to cover this. Then we can finally talk about RSD, social skills. I can dismantle RSD. This is not just for no fucking reason at all. I'm trying to help you all. That's my whole goal. So hope that makes sense. Should we continue to talk about the other mental illnesses of PUAs, or should we stop right here? Because the next time we're going to talk about Asperger's and autism. But I hope you guys learn a lot. Like I said, the entire cluster in the future for mental illnesses is not just one for PUAs. Like I said, it is sociopath, SN, narcissism, M, Machiavelli, manipulation. Okay, that's just the first one. Autism or Asperger's, so SNMA, or OCD, ADD or ADHD, depends on the cluster. You see, it's almost like a genetic code. And lastly, schizophrenia or delusional disorder. So SNMAOASO is the clusters for the PUAs. That most pickup artists are operating with all this stuff all in one. So therefore, their perception is inaccurate. So when they see RSD Tyler or Jan Lifestyle or any of these coaches, they believe that they're good people. In reality, they are devils. And whoever thinks they're helping me, or they think they're the best thing that happened to me, I just want to say that dark tetrad and manipulation is not the best thing that happened to me. It is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. It has not improved me. It has only improved the person who has. But that's not what the point of my conversation is today. I don't give a shit about other people. Let them go up to the 33% and let them fall back down. When I'm gone, that's what happens. They get proud and then it just falls down. They try them. When they try again with their delusions without me, it's like somebody pulled the power plug. So knowing all this is a good thing. I believe that this is a positive thing. Now you guys know. And like I said, in all these marketing books, this talks about funnels. And RSD says that they're a funnel. So RSD Tyler will give you advice when they give you advice because you're narcissistic and selfish, like dark triad. You want to give them something back. So eventually you go to a hot seat. So this is the first value ladder. So RSD operates under a value ladder. So maybe you can use here, the value ladder, up like this, like an escalation ladder. Hope that makes sense. So for RSD, the first ladder is the advice videos, A. Number 2, hot seats. So you'll show up at the events and they'll do the public speaking and brainwashing from blue pill to red pill. And then afterwards, they'll funnel you to the boot camps. And then afterwards, there'll be a second boot camp. A lot of people refund here because they don't have any results. And then afterwards, they kind of like get angry and they go to the next coach. Does that make sense? So your funnel, like RSD Tyler says, your funnel into a funnel. And this is a Machiavellian funnel. It doesn't actually help the students. That's why I don't like RSD. My students are getting so much results like crazy. And there's so much more testimonials. Johnny Lee is the world's best day game coach. If I have over 30-something boot camp clips, there's nobody that even comes close to me. That's just goddamn boot camps. I got testimonials in every single fucking program of late testimonials. So you gotta say to yourself, there's a difference between like less than 50 or less than 30 or less than 12 or less than 8 testimonials, which Justin Wayne has, versus 432 late poll testimonials, closer to 450. That there's something that I'm teaching here that is very different than what other dating coaches are teaching. In fact, there's probably very little in common what I teach to other people. I'm even removing hand holding from my system. There's no more hand holding. If you're gonna hold her, you're gonna grab her hand and you put it on your ass. And then you're gonna put your hand on her ass. And she's like, what are you doing? And it's like, you put your hand on my ass. I'm just joking, right? And then you just walk around like that. And she's like, what are you doing? It's like, I thought we were holding hands. The thing is that hand holding is a concept designed for positive stereotypes. So someone like Justin Wayne, for example, he's always into, oh yeah, I need a girlfriend, a girlfriend. The reason why a sociopath needs so many girlfriends is because it is their mating strategy. He's not a psychopath, he's a sociopath. Therefore, it's always about mating. He's already, I think he's a father now. He's a father now, but he procreated. Having said that, this is how they think. And now that you guys really understand all the details, like I said, this is all true. There's no spin here. There's no spin. And the more we know this, and this is the first time a dating coach has ever revealed this. Now the entire industry is going to be like kind of fucked. Because it's like John said, this is how the industry is like for all the other dating coaches. Guess what? For the first time in history, I'm ripping their fucking mask off. Now you know the entire RSD and how evil they are. This is it. This is the algorithm right here. All of it. Take a look. All this. This is all accurate. This is backed by psychology. This is backed by science. This is backed by the number of people in jails. This is backed by all the people they estimate are psychopaths or sociopaths, power hungry. All of this information, you can Google it yourself. It will align with every single thing I've said. And like I said, this is just cluster A. Next time we'll talk about autism and Asperger's. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. And like I said, after I finish all this psychology shit, I'm going to go and try to dismantle RSD, because we cannot dismantle RSD unless we change ourselves. And what to do if you have these characteristics is to be aware of it, that you don't have to be a manipulative person. You don't have to use people. And like I said, from what I've studied about sociopaths who are dark tetrad, whenever they work with other people, their alliances are very short-lived, because eventually the greed would take over. Like I said, they're very greedy and they're power hungry. They're power hungry, eventually it wouldn't be win-win, and they'll try and make it win-lose. But the other student made it win-lose in 2 months, not in like 2 years or whatever. He made it win-lose. 97% of the money he keeps, and I make 3%. That's really evil. So yeah, now that you know, and like I said to the other student, if you're watching this, I forgive you. And you probably don't feel good that you did it, and you wonder, John, I'm so sorry. How do I control this? Read the Bible. Like I said, dark tetrad, there is no religion outside of the Jesus quotes. Do not read the Bible. Read just Jesus quotes. It'll soften your heart. I look at the person's religion, even if they're religious and they're like dark tetrad. I look at the actions of the people from the religion, and I know their religion is full of shit. But the Jesus words can comfort you. So what happens if you are spiritually fucked up? I would say read Jesus quotes. So what happens if you're an emotional snowflake cunt? Jesus quote is good, because Now you can bring goodness into your heart and you can manifest that outwards. So basically, by being forgiven, you can forgive others. And I've been more able to forgive now than before. So love in your heart, you can bring it to other people. And also for and for delusions, I say read the book of Proverbs. Proverbs for the deluded autistic sociopaths. It talks about wisdom. It's the fool versus the wise person. The fool is always thinking he's wise and being very, very evil. But when the other person read it, he starts to realize, oh shit, he is the fool. He is not the wise person as he thought he was. And what to do about the IQ, the delusions. Like I said, that helps the delusions, the spiritual IQ and the EQ. The EQ, even if you dress better, is not going to help your self-esteem. I don't know how to help dark tetrad. I have not found a cure yet, guys. I'm still working on it. There is no solutions for dark tetrad. Dark tetrad is the most dangerous, and some dating coaches, I would say a small percentage of them have it. This is pure evil. There is no solutions except jail, lawsuits, or them getting the fights, them violence. There's no solutions. Jail. There's not much solutions here. I'm sorry, but whoever's dark tetrad, there is no fucking solutions. If I could figure out a solution, I would. Psychopaths who are dark triad can be good people. They definitely can be good, but they're more like uncaring and lack of empathy. Over here, dark triad, sociopathy is bad. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Just watch out for the eyes. The eyes shows you everything. Ignore the fake smile like Ted Bundy. This is the truth. And like I said, yeah, now all pickup artists, now even for the blue pill people, if they ever watch this video, they'll be like, oh, now I understand why pickup artists are so fucking weird. Now you guys get it. If you guys like it, give it a thumbs up. I know when you're not giving a thumbs up, it means that this is hitting too close to home. This, what I'm teaching you, is so accurate that it is upsetting. That's good when it's upsetting, because you're learning something. You're learning something. This is the most important information you can learn in your life. In the future, when you have coworkers like this, you got parents like this, you got people like this, now you know how to look for the eyes, the smile, you know about the traits, you know about the self-esteem, you know about the stages that you go through, you know about the manipulation, you know about the everything. So any more questions before I go? I'm gonna get something to eat. But man, I'm just telling you, these guys really are not trained or reading books about marketing. They really don't know, but they follow everything down to the letter. They follow. Thanks for doing what you do. Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. And this is a book of Machiavellianism. It's called Influence. A very, very manipulative book. I don't use it. But they know how to use all this stuff. So for RSD, reciprocation is the first step, like I told you. Like I said, I'm not making this shit up. This is all backed. Everything is backed by this book. So this is the Machiavellianism. So reciprocity. And what's the next one? So once you know all these secrets, they cannot manipulate you. Let's see. Commitment and consistency is the second manipulation. Commitment and consistency. Thank you, John. Take care, man. Time to go practice. Great. So whoever is still here, I'll continue. But for other people, practice at home. So whirring along. So basically what they're saying is that whirring is like when a bird makes a certain sound, cheep, 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 right? Whirring. The mother does not attack the bird. It raises the bird. So they put like a stuffed animal of some rabbit and they made the same sound. The mother hen or whatever like thing here start to nurture the stuffed animal. And the problem with the whirring response is that when someone like RSD shows up, they're also doing the same whirring, WHIRI, whirring along. See that? This is what they mean, whirring along, whirring. So it's not something I made up. So there's a lot of automatic responses. Like people automatically trust white dating coaches. They see someone like Jan Lifestyle, or they see some tall, positive stereotype. They're whirring along. They automatically just trust them. They automatically just trust them. So this is where the law of consistency is. So that's very dangerous to have automatic behaviors, because once you see their infields, like Justin Wayne tries to show infields, you know that? Because he believes that by showing you infields, even though he fucking paid the actresses, he believes that you are going to be whirring along, WHIRR. He believes that once you see the infield, you give the neural pathways to him and you no longer think for yourselves. So Justin Wayne knows a lot about psychology because he used to study psychological studies. So he knows just as much as I do about psychology. So once he posts the infield, automatically with Justin Wayne, you start trusting him, even though he is completely dark tetrad. Does that make sense, guys? Now you're starting to see your own psychology at work. Like, oh my God. Like, holy shit, this is not like some made up shit. This is something that's very consistent. What's the next one? Social proof. So for me, social proof is the testimonials. That's very powerful. Okay, but RSD has a lot of social proof because they also got a big following. So RSD has automatic social proof because of it. Not that they're good or anything, they're awful. But that's another tactic that they're using to manipulate you with. And you're like, holy shit. So you're saying RSD knows every single thing. Yeah, they do. They're master manipulators. And this is the book of pure manipulation. So here's a bunch of pigs, right? They're getting slaughtered. And they say so much for the strength in numbers or something. Safety in numbers theory, which is very funny because RSD sheeps are almost like slaughtered as sheeps. Like, oh my God. So John was right. Liking, the friendly thief. Liking, the friendly thief. You see that? Okay, so what does this mean? Once you're likable, so for example, even if you're evil, so if you have this mask of sanity, if you are likable, then they'll forgive anything. They'll overlook things. So you can influence people. Physical attractiveness, muscles, height, all that shit, like Jan Lifestyle. Similarities. So Jan Lifestyle, that's why a lot of them are into it. Compliments, comforting the sheeps. You guys are seeing this, but you see Johnny Lee is not even likable as a dating coach. It's not even likable. Because in the past, people did not find me likable. They thought I was like Dan Pena, a little bit too aggressive. In reality, by all these coaches, when they're wearing a mask and they're deluding you, they're being likable, just like all the other cult members. When they're likable, then you start to trust them. And this is a manipulation. This is a total manipulation because okay, liking by association. Yeah. Oprah Winfrey, Obama. Let's see. They tell you defenses of what you can do about it too against them. Give a thumbs up if you guys are liking this. It's very important. Authority. So, for example, we'll use a Justin Wayne example. So for authority, how they use the Machiavelli manipulation is that when white dating coaches, how do they manipulate with authority? Like I said, it's in the book. I'm not making this shit up. I got whatever lay counts, stats, and you believe them. They say field reports like crap is my king with no infield. You believe them. Justin Wayne with their purple pill game shows you infields. Guess what happens? Now you've given them the authority. Automatically, you've given Justin Wayne the authority. So you no longer listen. You no longer have critical thinking and very autistic like sheeps because now they used authority against you. They use the authority against you. If I want to use authority, I'll keep saying 432 late poll testimonials. I could manipulate you guys the same way if I wanted to, but I don't. I don't even give a shit because I don't it doesn't get me narcissistic. And my students say, like, if other people had your testimonials, they'll try to rub it in everyone's face, even if they dismiss saying they don't matter. But you can see that RSD, they have no proof, but you give them the authority. And I know a lot of people are very upset because a few people are dropping off. But so you can see this called a milligram study here. They pretend to shock people strapped to a chair. So a guys wear a lab coat, and automatically they start bossing the students around in the psychological study. They say, zap this guy. And you know what happened? What happened to students? Like Nazi Germany, they start zapping the other students. Zap, and they pretend to be zapped. They're not actually zapped, but it looks like they're turning on the dial and electrocuting the other guy across the room to the authority. And this milligram experiment is exactly what happens when you give white dating coaches. That's why I made so many YouTube live white dating coaches, because you're giving them the authority, guys. You're giving white dating coaches the authority. So therefore, you automatically assume they're good because they're white. You have, just like the milligram experiment, you have automatically given them the authority without them earning it. Once you see it infield, your brain shuts down. That's why you always see sheeps always asking, John, more infields, more. I got them, so I can post them, but I don't want people to worship. So when you look at my website, it says, I don't want sheeps to worship me. It's because I don't want to like use authority. I'd rather you think for yourselves. I want you to look at the testimonials. I want you to be having critical thinking. This is why I'm trying to unbrainwash you from all this Machiavellianism. I'm actually teaching you the secrets of all marketing and how they operate. So they're talking about blind obedience and stuff. Let's see. So next one's called scarcity, the rule of the few. So that's one way they can get you too. This is not like super Machiavellian, but you know, if they say they can't teach this many people, there's limited numbers. That's one way of doing it. So just to let you guys know, censorship. If they're censoring something, it becomes limited. More people want to see it. David Icke just got banned on Facebook, so therefore, you know, automatically they're banning Brian Rose too on London Real. So more people want to see what they have to say. So banning these people would just strengthen them, but that becomes more scarcity. That's another thing to think about. So instant influence. I think you're starting to see the point. So you're realizing there's all these tips and tactics. And if you guys want to read a book to see how you're manipulated by the other dating coaches, maybe read like Sell Like Crazy. I got this for free. The dude looks like a psychopath, honestly, his eyes and shit. But it's a good book. And some of you are, it'll tell you step by step how to manipulate. .com Secrets is very good too. And so is Expert Secrets. So once you learn these few things, you start to see that there's a pattern to marketing. And a lot of you guys are so susceptible to marketing. And like I said, these guys have not read any of these books. They are born with a dark tetrad or dark triad personality disorder. That's all I gotta say, guys. I hope you guys learn a lot. I hope you guys learn a lot. It's really amazing to read all this shit, because there is a good and evil in this world, and this is not a made-up concept. It's just that you guys have never heard of it before, and it's a very dangerous concept. And you can see John is not manipulative. John's marketing is not, it's not even marketing. A lot of you are wondering, like, what the fuck, man? You can't tell people the truth and stuff, because if you start doing that, you're gonna lose your audience. And you have to spin things. That's what I've been taught. You have to spin things. And it's like a Nazi Germany. You got to spin things to a certain conclusion. And I say, fuck that. I say, just tell the people the truth. Open up their mind. Let the chips fall where they may. Some of you are going to be smart enough to understand all this stuff, to train under me, you know. And I didn't even try to sell myself. I hope by giving you clarity today that you see that I don't even have to teach you this shit. I don't. But I want people to be enlightened. I want people to open their mind. Yeah, exactly. I want people to open up their mind. Another book I'm reading right now is called Psychic Intelligence. The weird thing is that I didn't believe in this universe and shit like that. I didn't. But when they started speaking to the other guy who screwed me over, he's like saying, "You're so evil. John is a saint trying to help the Asian men. Why must he waste his time on your, narcissism?" I was like, "What the fuck? I didn't say that." And he's like, he was emotionally hurt. And I was like, "What the fuck?" And then it all clicked. Dark Tetrad. He was evil, and he confessed. He told me that he was screwing me over by all these things, and he's sorry. And I was like, "I know," or the universe knows. So I think a lot of my game is not really my game. I think it's from heaven. I know it sounds really fucked up, but I think there's something up there in the universe. There's a universal library. Casanova, the real guy, who's access to it. All these other people, all these naturals. This is probably why I know so much things, and there's a huge advantage. This is why there's 432 testimonials. The game is from up there. It feels like it's 100 years ahead. All these concepts and stuff I learned in the inner circle from my Pakistani mentor. He's also manifesting from up there, I believe. All the naturals are. Social skills is something that they want you to learn. It's very important, JP. For other people, the Asians, they want me to write a book. That's why I feel a new book about the art of war, but the science of day game. It has to be retranslated so that the Asian men who are being spit at during COVID-19, they have the mental fighting spirit that they once had as Asian men. Because Asian men were Viet Congs, they were warlords, they were ninjas, they were samurai, they were warriors. You've forgotten that. You've forgotten that you were once mentally tough. So I have a feeling that if I don't write this book, a lot of people will be hurt. And you see, John really is caring. Me, I'm very caring on my students. Why should I serve other people when these guys, these marketers are serving themselves? Won't that be smarter? No, the problem is that when you're serving yourself, you only go up 33%. By selfishness, power hungry, and screwing everyone over around you, it doesn't really help society. Does that make sense? For me, I'd rather make less money a little bit and not screw people over and get student results because the Asians need me, rather than just be Machiavellian and just like all these other people. Because you see all the Machiavellian guys like RSD and Todd Valentine and JT Trent, where are they now? They're not even out here that much because they're emotionally bothered, because all they think about is money, power, and procreation. Todd Valentine already procreated, but you see their mentality. Unless it makes them money, they won't be out here giving value or teaching people on YouTube Live, or YouTube or anywhere. They don't give a fuck. And for the people out here with the coronavirus courses and shit, they're just opportunistic users. And you can see Todd Valentine has aged dramatically. When you look at Todd Valentine, he looks like he's 55 years old now. Every week that's going by, he's aging by like 10 years. So the longer you lock up Todd Valentine, next time you see him, he's going to look older than Ross Jeffries. And look at me. I'm looking younger, even though I'm showing a little bit of a beard, because I'm not emotionally affected. My business has not been affected by COVID-19 at all. I've not lost any money. I actually made quite a bit last month. It's because of the skills that are transferable, the skills that other people exploited. And when you unplug from them, they start to go downhill. Hope that makes sense. Skills are everything for the mindsets. And for the other student, YVERNO, he's one of my students. You don't understand, the mindset is very important. Mindsets. Thoughts and feelings equals results. For example, what they're manifesting, RSD was talking about like a fucking matrix. Your thoughts on the left side of the brain and your feelings is what you project out there. And when you're sociopathic and delusional and just thinking about power, what you're projecting is that your left brain is negative and it is always about screwing people over, like RSD Tyler. And your right brain, the low EQ, because of narcissism, you're projecting nothing but like fucking people over. Hope that makes sense. When you're projecting your fucking people over and over and over, is not good, because that only brings badness into your life. When I project stuff, manifest stuff, only thing I've ever manifesting is more solutions for Asian people and helping the entire, like the whole human race. That's my purpose. That's why I believe heaven or whatever the fuck, they probably put me through a lot of bullshit so I can help more people. And I'm very glad to help people. I'm not a Machiavellian person. I'm not Machiavellian at all. There is no manipulation here. So I hope you guys learn a lot. And I'm not putting on a mask. I'm just saying things as it is. I hope you guys learn a lot. If you guys got any questions relating to game or tactics and stuff, ask away. Because I'm gonna go. I gotta get something to eat. I'm a little bit hungry. So for the people that, I remember a question earlier. It's like, do you just like work, and do you just like online? No, I teach boot camps, and also like, it's harder day game right now. It's harder day game. A lot of people are really hating Chinese people and social distancing. So with social distancing, your social skills and your social calibrations has to be a lot better, because you can't be closer than 2 meters. So a lot of public speaking, the hands and the facial expressions and the vocal tonality and stuff is what's going to create the hook points. So there's going to be a brand new game. Okay. And the most you can do for Kino is elbow to elbow, maybe. It's like far away, just like a handshake. Don't worry, we're not touching hands. Click. When you walk with her, you have to be sitting across from her in the incident. And finally, when they build enough trust, and he said, come on, even if I had COVID-19, right? You're still young. Nothing will happen to you. And you try to bang her. Therefore, she'll still say, yeah. You start talking about how she's lonely and shit, and you close it that way. You loop it. Well, objections dealing. And I know it sounds very manipulative, and my game is extremely manipulative. But in terms of teaching the students and stuff, I am not Machiavellian. My game is extremely Machiavellian, extremely about value too. And like I said, it's all skill game. Social skills is also very helpful. You guys will need to master your tonality. You need to talk like white people. Unless you can talk like white people, like the way they talk, even like right now, the voice, you can see it modulate. I can make it funny and stuff like that. I can make it like, a little bit sad too. And that's how white people talk. They're very animated, and I can make it very, very like flirty for a second like that. And the thing is that you need to have this voice of the white people. For those people who cannot adapt with this kind of tonality, the way you speak to women, you're going to have like groceries thrown at you, water bottles, and be told, that you started COVID-19. And if the students are not dressed like me, and their hair is not cut like mine, and they go out there looking Asian, they're going to be another statistic of hate crime. They're going to go through a lot of hate crime. And it's been increasing even in Toronto and Vancouver and the United States. Asians are being, treated like they started COVID-19. So whatever SMV you guys thought you had 1 out of 10. John, I still get 1 out of 10. Therefore, it's okay. Now it's at 0. I'm sorry, but 0. That's why I need to write this book about the art of war, or the science of game, or science of day game, because you need the mental toughness. So, yes. I'll be back on YouTube Live more. So, no, it's not the only thing I do. The thing is that YouTube Live is easier than video editing. I'm spending all my times learning some new skills, like improving my copywriting. So I'm always reading and learning. In case I'm not here, it's not because I'm like Todd Valentine and it affected my business. I'm so mentally affected. I'm getting chubbier, and then I keep moving my neck left and right like they are emotional. No, it's not that. It doesn't affect me because I still look young as hell. And it's actually making me, because I'm actually very happy of how much money. I'm the only one who's actually making money during COVID-19, actually. So all the dating coaches are making no money because they all depend on boot camps and Machiavellianism to funnel you into a boot camp. They funnel you to a value ladder. Shitty product that doesn't work. Then you go to their boot camps, or their 6 months to mastery, their boot camps. And by the time you go through this value ladder, you have already paid like $200 for the product, $5K, $4K here, and another fucking almost 8K. You spend close to, let's just say this Justin Wayne, for example. You probably spend more than 10K right there. Well, you could have just got the elite fucking bundle or something, or Kaizen or something like that for a fraction of the cost and get yourself laid. Because if it takes you 6 months to get laid here, 6 months to mastery, it's almost like you're SMVing it. If you're going to approach for 6 months, you're going to eventually close. And students or hard cases around 6 months when they close, they should just get elite 30 and fucking pull in 2 weeks and then close in like 3 months or something, or 2 months. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of Machiavellianism that I've seen. And yeah, it's just how it works. Just how it works. Just be careful now. Now you guys know how not to be charmed by the eyes and stuff. I show you all the eyes and stuff. Now you know like how not to be like, all that. Watch out for the masks. They're like very nice to you. They want to comfort you. It's just because of narcissism. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. Maybe tomorrow or after tomorrow, I'll be back on YouTube Live. The reason why I'm on YouTube Live is because I can connect with my audience. And second of all, I don't like video editing. I could show you some cool bootcamp clips. I can show you nonstop bootcamp trailers if you want, like 30 fucking bootcamp trailers in a row. I mean, I already got 15 of them when I'm gaming elite. Actually, more students got laid when I was gaming elite than John Wayne. So more students pulled during John Wayne because something's been screwed up with the game. There's some contamination. Johnny Elite, fucking just nonstop results. Johnny Elite, the students just fucking pull it and lay it. There's not even pulls, all lays. One after another. So something's changed because I went back to Pakistani mentor. But there are some things I need to remove from the game. So hand holding is the next piece I'm removing. There's no more hand holding. And none of my students ever use romance or hand holding or connection. My students do not, because the narcissism, Asians, they do not actually know how to connect. They don't know how to, because of the autism, the narcissism, and the sociopathy, they cannot empathize. So they gotta be more social comfort. Gotta relax the body, be more comfortable. They never ever use romance in their game, guys, ever. It's like a fucking stupid concept that doesn't, and a lot of people are resistant to it because they're brainwashed. That's where the Machiavellianism comes from. You look at all my YouTube lives, whenever you see everything that has 100% thumbs up, that's great. They agree with me because everything I'm saying is the truth. Everything I've ever said is the truth of the game. There's no spin. There's no spin. There's no marketing. Let the chips fall where they may. However, I see some videos about romance and stuff or certain things, and they're getting a thumbs down. And what's happening is that people are resistant because they're having cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, I'm just saying, this is not some made up shit. When I'm talking about psychology, I'm really talking about psychology. Cognitive dissonance. So what's happening is that the state of having inconsistent thoughts, belief, or attitude, especially relating to behavior, decision, and attitude change. Basically, by having two conflicting ideas, right, your brain will create pain. So if I'm telling you the truth and you disagree with me, for one of the older videos, they're all like 100% likes. If you disagree with me, it's because there is some kind of brainwashing, Machiavellianism going on. There's some kind of brainwashing. Hope that makes sense, guys. And if there's no more comments here, also check out my new site, JohnEliteDating.com. I'm not done with the site. I'm not done with the site. I hope you guys like it. Hope that works. HTTP. May I have write HTTP? HTTPS. John Elite Dating. It's not just JohnElite.com. It's John Elite Dating. There. Now it works. When you click on it, hopefully, let's see. I fucking type it right. HTTPS. I always type it wrong. Okay, HTTPS. John Elite. No, www.JohnEliteDating.com. No wonder it didn't work last time. I was wondering why didn't the site work when I sent an email. That was me that wrote it. So there it is, John Elite Dating. So yeah, that's the site. I'm not sure if it's good or not. My old site converts a lot better, but it's nice to have something new. Let me remove the other two. I fucking yeah. So it's always like, John, it's like, you have the most embarrassing looking site. You know, you could have a better looking site, you know, for marketing purposes. But I don't give a fuck about marketing. Just let the chips fall where they may. Any more questions? If there's none, then that's the end of the lesson. See you in the next video about autism and Asperger's. In the third video, OCD and ADD. You have to learn this shit because it's helpful to you. Anyways, maybe I'll be back tomorrow. We'll get through this as quick as possible. Johnny Lee out.